Yeah, no, I mean, I wasn't sure about some of them. I think I would have almost enjoyed it. I think more if it wasn't there were less star names in there. So like it could have done without Reese Witherspoon. It could have done it without Owen Wilson. To be honest, I personally think I like Brolin as the police detective, but I would have think I potentially would have enjoyed it more if it was just kind of Joaquin Phoenix as the star, and it was an exploration of his journey through this time as it is coming through his kind of drug walk perception. I think that potentially would have been a little bit more interesting, like some of the films we referred to already, where it's just that one star, like you mentioned Nightcrawler, you mentioned The Big Lebowski. Albeit The Big Lebowski has a couple of stars, that really you focus on El Dude, you focus on Jeff Bridges. I thought that potentially could have been a bit more. That would have made it a little bit more of a serious film because it would have been a bit more of a kind of psychoanalysis. But that could have been a potential more interesting angle for me, I think.
What difference do you think it makes to the story that there's lesser known names or whatever?
Because I think when it's such a small cameo and you don't have time to instantly forget or invest in that actor's acting, then so for example, when Owen Wilson comes in, because it is such an immediate kind of cameo and he's not sort of an integral part throughout, albeit he is quite a big character, you're kind of initially like, oh, it's Owen Wilson, and the lawyer comes out, you're like, oh, it's Reese Witherspoon, and then it's like, oh, it's Benicio del Toro. It's kind of like, oh, you're not actually getting to see them act as a character, so you just see that A-list name in my head anyway when I perceive it. Pardon?
You think they steal the scene a little bit then?
Yeah, it's exactly. I think it kind of it distracts you from what you're watching, really, because you're like, oh, there's another A-lister, but you don't see them as the character, you just see them as that, as themselves, really. So it's like when you watch a kind of a starring movie like a Brad Pitt film or something like that, you're so used to watching Brad Pitt that it takes you perhaps a couple of scenes to invest in him as a character. And I find you don't get the opportunity when it's a bit of a cameo role like that. That's my only feedback.
Sorry, I'm just going to say, it's because we haven't acknowledged that James is here. He just looks like some guy that's just like popped onto the wrong Zoom call or something like that. Hi, James.
Three words, James.
James, what did you think about the inner elements of the film in 3 words?
3 words.
Yeah, fresh.
And then a paragraph.
Fresh off the barbecue, you are.
I didn't realise you were sticking the 3.
I don't know. I've not really had time to process it at all. Convoluted but entertaining, I'd say, is probably my deduction of what I felt about the film.
Sounds like we're all on the same page then in total.
What's that, sorry, Liam?
I said you wasted the middle word.
Yeah.
Not really.
No, I read that. That makes sense.
So James, first off, first question fired to you since you've got here then. Was it all coherent to you? Did it make sense? Do you know what you just watched?
I think I have enough to be able to understand some of the beats at the end, but I'm not going to lie, I definitely haven't got all of it. That's why I said convoluted but entertaining. I was gripped the whole time.
I think that's the point.
Yeah. But I generally didn't get the whole thing. No, I don't think so.
But that's not a fault of the film, do you think? I mean that's part of the purpose of how it's written, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't really know, because I think this is the conversation we had like last time as well. When I said I don't really think those kind of films are there to be gotten. I don't think that's the purpose of them. So yeah, I probably agree with what you say.
I think you had more to grasp on this week than you did last week. Definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
There's character acting in this. You actually delve into a character where last week's it's purposely vague and sort of vapid acting.
Yeah, but this was that. I felt like this was that way, but in a different way. I mean, the car, like you said, the car's so big, so many names. My God, half the time I didn't even know who they were talking about. Especially names that they were firing out there, characters that sort of would have appeared dead or be in it for 5 seconds. And I had Paul Bevan or whatever. I have no idea who that is. I'm sorry.
Mr. Riggs warbling. That was one that cracked me.
Yeah, but this is more of the stuff that's kind of like I was watching it, and I guess I just kind of accepted, like, yeah, I have no idea what they're talking about, but I accepted it in a good way. Whereas I think with Mulholland Drive last week, part of that was like didn't quite understand what was going on, so I didn't really get that warmth and feeling that I could accept that I wasn't quite going along at the same speed as the story. Whereas this one, like, it was all happening all around, and the more you think about it, like all films, the more you think about it, the more you understand it, and the more you can see the depth and the about the capitalist side of the world, and then this other hippie side of the world, and what each character represents, and all that. But this one, I felt a bit more accepted in watching it, and it like you've all said, it was just a lot more enjoyable, I think, and it wasn't pretentious. I don't think it wasn't staring at me saying, you know, you need to get this, otherwise that's your fault. It was more just like, hey, come and have a look at this.
I think it was the way they did it. The way it was directed was what made it entertaining, and the fact that it wasn't just the plot itself. Probably would have been quite understandable had they directed it very differently, but it was intentionally made to be incredibly confusing, and that's what I'd assume the books, the style the book's written in as well, because you are out of control if you're following the character of Doc, because he's out of control and he's completely off his head half the time, and you quickly realise that half throughout the film, and it's not, as you say, it's not necessarily a bad thing not being able to understand everything. You've just got to accept it, because I can see a lot of people saying, oh, hang on a minute, I wasn't able to work that out, I didn't follow it, I don't like that film. But I would assume that there'd be quite a few people that wouldn't like it because they don't understand it and they can't work it out. Right?
I do think, I know what you're saying. I think you quite quickly have to, like, just say, fuck it, I'm going to surrender to whatever the hell is going to happen. Quite soon into the film, you just have to go, all right, they're going to take me on a ride. I might not have any idea about where it's going, but it's going to be fun, and, you know, just do what you want, rather than, like, trying to figure everything out.
Does it help that the main character in this film, they had a lot of pathos, which it wasn't exactly something that you feel like was, you know, Paul Thomas Anderson wasn't presenting Doc as this character that you should feel sorry for, but he sort of did anyway. Did it help that there was a character like Doc that had a lot of pathos that you could just feel like you rooted? It was a character to root for the whole time, regardless of his situation. Does that help make the whole thing more acceptable, that the main protagonist is a character that you actually like and warm to, whereas last week, you know, none of the characters in that film you're even particularly supposed to warm to as a whole?
I think that's a key constituent to a sort of crime thriller like that, is you've got to have your main character have a moral compass, because the second he doesn't, you're no longer with him, and then I haven't seen the film from last week, but by the sound of it, yeah, there's nothing to then follow, because you're not, like, you can't align with a certain character.
Tom?
Yeah, I agree to an extent. I think it's just more, it doesn't really, I don't necessarily think it's got to be sort of empathy that you feel towards the main character for it to work. I think there just has to be a depth to that character, so more than kind of just a face value impersonation of an individual, and actually some kind of more depth behind their emotions, whether good or bad. And I think a film like this would have required a lead like Joaquin Phoenix. Otherwise, I think it would have fallen pretty flat on its backside. I think he delivers the role really well.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think one of the things which is quite strange when you're watching him is that with those kind of individuals, it's quite easy to get frustrated with their characters because you see them as being quite self-destructive. But I actually didn't feel like that towards him at all. I actually felt he was kind of innocent. But you look at all his tendencies, and usually when you see those characters in film, you're just like, oh god, he's just fucking it the whole time. He's his own worst enemy. but I don't actually see that in this film. I quite enjoyed the space that he kind of inhabited throughout the film.
That's what I was saying before you came on, James. Sorry, go on, Liam. Go on.
Now, I was just going to say, I thought that he was very capable. You sometimes get the impression that he might just be a bit of a bum, and like for all the appearances he has, kind of seems that way. And then suddenly he'll just say something like they're intelligent, like that whole forensics boss shit.
In the cabinet, with a cup of tea.
Yeah, this guy knows what he's on about. He knows what he's doing. When he needs to be with it, he's with it. And I think that kind of like, that definitely allowed me to root for him, because obviously they're just, they're quite virtuous characteristics and shit. But I think that all of the acting and stuff aside, just the idea, just the concept of a hallucinating detective, I think is quite brilliant, because you get to have that central conceit of an unreliable narrator, which allows that really strange and really specific tonal balance the film takes on, where like scene to scene it just keeps straddling the line between absurd and real, and like every time it's on the verge of complete absurdity and about to fall off, it comes back in and thickens the plot, re-engages you with the apparent seriousness of the shit at hand. That idea, that as a driving force, just like it made the thing really unique, because I always felt off balance. I didn't feel like I ever knew what was going to happen. Everything was so, everything just kept shifting, like from absurd to real all the time. So I never knew where I was. It was interesting. It always coincided with whenever he was, like taking a fat toke of a zoot or whatever. The next scene would then just be all weird and a bit mismatched, and not really kind of like pertaining to anything that could be real. Like the scene in the fucking diner, when like they're ordering all those booty drinks and shit. I just thought that was so absurd, and the camera just keeps panning in, and they're just mostly talking rubbish. They're just like muttering and shit, but the camera just keeps moving in, so you're getting really, really invested in whatever it is they're saying. I just thought that was played really well.
I like that scene. There was a sense of importance that they thought what they were talking about was so important as well. Yeah. Leaning into each other and whispering and going, "Oh, don't stop talking." Like when she walked over, and they're talking about such random shit as well. Like, to someone who would care, it would be interesting, but like just between them, they think it's so important.